Okay, so obviously this meeting is going to be a little bit different. We've never done a Q&A before, so we thought this would be a good backup for a cancellation, which is basically what happened. So I hope this goes well. We'll find out. But does anyone have any like organization related questions first?
When can we get our shirts?
So the shirts should be ready by, let me double check, I think next week. Yeah, the 23rd, so next week. And then we'll pass them out after that, basically, like immediately after.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions? It can be about like hours or anything. Oh, I see a question on here about hours. So aside from, if your question isn't on here, we'll go over it too. But I'll just go ahead and cover like the Shamos related stuff first. So do we have to get a signature for our hour sheets? I have contact information and complete some prior to joining. I don't have a signature. So it depends on what it is. If it's food pantry related or any type of like service related, then you don't necessarily need a signature. Just as long as you have like some type of proof, like a picture or contact information, then you're solid. Just write down the contact information there so we can verify it, and then that'll count. And then does contributing to missing maps count as community service hours? What is missing maps?
Just looked it up, and it helps people. Oh, there's an echo. It helps people chart unmapped areas that are prone to. Let me just pull it up instead. Just trying to remember if
I can tell you some about it. That was my question.
Yeah.
Humanitarian project preemptively map the world vulnerable to natural disasters, conflicts, and disease epidemics.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Motto to help map the most vulnerable places in the developing world. That's a good project.
Yeah.
Talk over you.
No, you're good. I wanted to let you finish because you had it pulled up. So the general idea, yeah, is just to be able to help places that are at high risk for like natural disasters or just anything like that, and mapping kind of places that aren't really mapped at all, so that they're able to like actually see where to go for these people who like aren't necessarily on the map, so that they can help them as well. But it's actually really awesome because the site will track your hours for you, and it tells you what projects you've contributed to. And there's actually a bunch of cool things you can do on there as well. You can like group map, but I do it for my honors. And so I didn't know if y'all would be okay with it too, because it is online. So like it's not possible to get a signature, but I can show proof of work because it tracks my hours.
Yeah, that sounds like a really good one.
And no issue with that.
Okay, awesome.
I mean, I'm the one who care all the hours, and I say that's fine. So
yeah.
Yeah, as long as you provide proof with it, like whenever you send in your sheet, that's okay with me.
So would y'all want me to like attach it with the document or?
Yeah, would you? Like, yeah. You can either scan them all as PDFs, or you can even take like a little snippet clip of that and then post it on a Word doc and then post the pictures of, what do you call it, of your hour log on there, and that would work too, if you want to do that.
Awesome. Yeah, thank y'all.
Yeah, that's really good. Now I'm going to look into it and see if I can do it, because that's really cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Anybody can do it. It's super cool. My sister actually told me about it, and I was like, what? So.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so what is the best thing to do if you're wanting to become an officer for this organization? So basically,
Why?
So obviously, first you have to be a full-time member for 2 consecutive semesters back to back. So, and we prefer those 2 semesters to be prior to the one you're running for. So like, for example, people that we replace in the spring, you'll want to have been a full-time semester for that previous fall and that previous spring if possible, but if not, then that current spring and then the previous fall too. So that's like the first like ground, like that's basically the only like minimum requirement. And then you also have to have a minimum of a 2.0 GPA and above while you're an officer. I hope that's not a problem. Being in a medically oriented, like, you know, group, I hope you have know. And then as far as what we used to do is we used to make you do like a presentation in front of the group, and then the group members vote that way. But since we didn't really do that this past time, what I did is I just had you guys send out an email, basically describing your just like basic attributes about you, why you're fit for the position, and basically how you would benefit the organization and how do you think the organization would benefit you. So that's pretty much like the standard. We will probably have a couple of replacements in the spring because I know a few of us are graduating. So like keep that in the back of your head if you are interested. So if you're a full-time member for this fall and in the next spring, then you can technically run for an officer position. And then keep in mind too that whenever you do run for an officer position, you have to make time for officer meetings, which are 1 hour, 1 day a week, and the member meetings. So this semester was a little bit easier because it's online, so I wasn't really too strict about requirements for that because it's online. So if you show up, then it's no big deal. But for in-person stuff, it's a requirement that you have to be there for at least 80% of the meetings. So you definitely have to put some time into it. But if it's something that you're like looking into doing, definitely like you can ask us questions, look at the position that you're interested in. Like for example, if you're interested in being the historian, then you can get a hold of Maria and just like talk to her and get to know her and see what the job is about, and then go from there. That's pretty much like the best advice that I have for that. Does anyone have anything they want to ask, like tailing off of that?
I think you hit that on the spot, really. I mean, you covered.
Yeah, that was like the right. Yeah. Trying to think of like just advice, because I know like whenever I was a historian, I was kind of like very timid. I was really shy. I did not like talking in front of people at all. And then I just completely changed in the past 2 years. Like I see a significant difference in my personality in the past 2 years by being the president. So like if you want to be like an underground officer, so like basically not the president and not the vice president, then keep in mind that you can move up to being president or vice president. The president and vice president are voted on within the board. So whenever we vote on to figure out who is myself and Daniel's replacements in the spring, then we vote on whoever's already in an officer position. So if you're wanting to be president, that's a really good way in. Oh, anonymous Kiwi, that's cute.
And what the response, I'm guessing just what you're going to type is what the responsibilities of each one are.
Yeah. So president is going to be it's the most time consuming. Like even when I was a historian, I went above and beyond, but I didn't spend anywhere near as much time on being a historian as I have as president. Like it's a part-time job, it feels like. So I deal with the actual like administrative responsibilities of the organization. So I have to fill out all the paperwork. I have to track everything that all the officers do. I have to make sure all of our members are on track. And then I also, if there's any paperwork that has to be filled out related to money, or if we have any campus events or off-campus events, I have to fill out all the paperwork for it. It's a lot of paperwork. If you don't like paperwork, don't do it. And then I also am in charge of scheduling the entire semester. So I have to plan ahead in the summer and over Christmas break what I'm gonna do for both semesters that I'm the president for. So there's that. And then I'm trying to think of like anything else, but pretty much I just have to stay extremely organized. Having OCD really helps, not gonna lie. Sometimes that's a disadvantage, but for this, it's not. The more organized you are and the more you don't procrastinate, the better. If you procrastinate really bad, it's not a good position at all because you have to do everything months in advance. So it's really, really tricky to try and manage that if you have a really bad habit of procrastinating. So after that, then I have to train basically every single position under me, even if the other officer before trained them, because it's my responsibility to make sure that everything runs smoothly. So being a president, it's like a really, really big responsibility and it puts a lot of weight on your shoulders as far as like being successful, because then on top of that, you're basically the face of the organization. So you have to be on top of your crap all the time, and you have to make a really good impression with professors, with administrators, advisors, everything. So there's that. And then the vice president. So basically the vice president, the way that I have it structured is basically if something happens to me, Daniel can take over with no issue. So I have to train him to be like a second me. And that's pretty much what the vice president does. He prepares to take over in case I can't do something. Or if there's an event that I can't do, then he will. And then the treasurer, so the treasurer deals with all the money. So if you're really good with money and you're like, don't be afraid to tell people no. If you're afraid to tell people no with buying things, you're not going to be a good treasurer. That's like a really, really big key, is you have to be like, don't be afraid to tell me, like as a president or anyone else, no, because if we can't afford it, we can't afford it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it. You're good.
Yeah, so as Morgan said, you have to be okay with saying no to people. Since we have COVID going on and since we don't really have a lot of outside events, we're able to have stuff like t-shirts and that because we're not really spending money on anything else. And also you're in charge of everything financially. So you have to keep track of dues. You have to collect the dues, like how I've been doing this past semester. So it's anything money related. That's the treasurer's job. That's my job. So, yeah.
And then kind of sort of tailing off of that, so some stuff that we haven't done yet, just because it is like a lot of work, the treasurer can also request funds from the university, but there's a lot of paperwork with it, and it's a whole process to get funds from the university. So if we have any like we were planning on going to a conference last year, and it got canceled because, COVID hit and we couldn't do it. So what happened was I had started out the paperwork and I had talked to the treasurer to see if we could afford it, if it was feasible, filled out the paperwork, and then they basically said, never mind, it's not going to happen. So we wasted like that entire time planning and doing all this stuff, planning out the hotels and everything. So you have to be prepared to do a little bit of paperwork if you plan on going that route. But so far, we haven't had to worry about that as much. But that is something that you can kind of sort of think about. So if you do want to be a treasurer, just kind of like keep in the back of your head, like, okay, what are some things that I can do to help save the organization money and benefit the members the most? And then a good tip that one of the administrators gave me at the little leadership conference was basically you want to end up at, whenever you leave as treasurer, you want to end up with the exact same amount of money you started with or more. So whenever the next person comes in, they don't have to worry about anything. And then going down to secretary, the secretary position has been kind of sort of flexible over the past couple of years, but the main one is tracking hours. So that's like that's the big bulk of the secretary's position, is tracking y'all's hours, making sure it gets inputted into OrgLink, and making sure that's accurate.
Tracking hours, also emailing y'all weekly, making sure y'all are up to date with the organization. Although the social media is more of the historian's job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm going to add the other two positions here so we know, because I don't want to skip them. Okay. And then historian. So the historian's job, basically it's just documenting the organization and its literal history. So taking pictures, making the flyers, advertisements, managing the social media, all of that. And then that one's also pretty flexible too. So like whenever I was historian, I focused more on pictures and I used that as my advertisement. But I know the historian before me, she focused on like ads and advertisement and less on pictures. So that one's a little bit more flexible too. But basically the main job there is making sure that people see us. and making sure that we get flyers distributed across campus when we can, and making sure our social media is up to date and answering people on social media as quickly as possible, and that kind of thing. Is Maria here? I forgot. I can't remember if she's here or not.
I think she said she was at an event or something like that.
Did you call me? I'm sorry. It's like
Oh.
it goes on and off.
You're good. I just finished going over your position. Do you have anything to add?
Not at the moment. I think you covered everything. I hope I'm doing a great job, though, guys.
Yeah. Yeah, you're awesome. Like, honestly, well, I will say all of the officers that I've had this semester and this year, like every single one of y'all have been like on point and amazing. So, like, good job to you guys. And then, okay, so the social chair, that's going to be me.
Oh, hey, Morgan.
Yeah.
Can I add something?
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I was telling.
Marie, you cut out.
You're cutting out.
Okay, so you did cut out there, but if you hear what I'm saying, if you want to, go into the Google Drive and you can answer the question down here about the missing maps and give us details. And if you could provide like the link and stuff, that would be awesome too. Because I know that's what you were probably gonna ask.
Wait, it cut off. I'm so sorry. What happened?
You cut off.
Yeah, you're cutting off. If you want to though, if you have access to the Google Doc, you can type whatever you want to about missing maps and everything.
Yeah, because like I know.
Okay. Okay. So I was on social chair. Yeah, social chair. So I feel bad for Tiffany because she doesn't really have anything to do this semester because we can't have social events. So the social chair, their job is to plan any type of social event that we have. So we used to have events where the meetings would be like we would just sit around, talk, play some games. We would have food. It's usually the first meeting, it's a holiday, and then the last meeting. So like we used to have fun meetings, but this semester we couldn't do that at all. They basically said, no, you can't do anything. And then also they're in charge of planning events. So we also have fundraiser events usually, but we had to cancel those too. So the fundraiser event that we usually do in the fall is the Bottle Health Initiative. That is like a monster. We're pushing it to the spring and it's going to be a lot. That's probably the biggest project that the social chair has because you have to work in coordination with the philanthropy chair to plan the event, figure out where it's going to be, how much it's going to cost, and all of the details. But that's the extent of the social chair. And then in the event that we don't have social events, what we're having the social chair do is assist the historian in advertisement. So, so that way, she has something to do. And then the philanthropy / blood drive chair. So kind of sort of what the name implies, mostly you're dealing with blood drives. So you're going to be working with our blood drive coordinator. Her name is Teresa. And then you're going to have to schedule the blood drives ahead of time for the whole semester. And then you have to constantly communicate with her as well. So that's the main part. And then also logging the hours for the blood drive information. So the hours for blood drives, technically it's confidential. So the other officers don't have access to whether you donated blood or not, unless the hours get inputted in. But if you go to our blood drive coordinator website, we can see if you donated or not. And it's the responsibility of the blood drive chair to basically make sure that everything is going smoothly with the blood drives and that everyone is donating where they're supposed to be donating. And then also planning any type of philanthropy event. Like if there's like a cancer walk or some type of other like awareness walk, philanthropy chairs, usually will bring that to my attention and I'll be like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then I approve it and then we go. So, but that one's really flexible too, because you can plan whatever you want. If there's something that you want to do in Houston, we can do it. We just have to get approval from Sam Houston to go to Houston and that kind of thing.
So let's go ahead and move on to the other questions. What's the hardest course you've taken thus far? For me, I would have to say biochemistry 1. It's not really the class itself, like the lecture. The lecture is easy. The lecture is so much fun, especially if you have Dr. Haynes. He has a whole lot of fun. You've learned so much, and like whenever you start connecting the dots, especially with your background in organic chemistry, which you should have a decent at this point, actually have to in order to get into biochem. It really puts a lot of things in perspective. The reason why I say it's the hardest, however, is because the lab is a huge step up from any other lab that you've taken, period. Like, even if you've taken like stuff like quantitative analysis, which does get you like in a good rhythm for like chemical lab reports, it's still going to kick you in the teeth just because it's a massive step up. So that's my hardest course I've taken this far.
The hardest, oh my gosh, the hardest course I've taken so far, hands down, it's been OChem. So organic chemistry for me, it's been a complete nightmare. Like, I'll be completely honest with you guys. Whenever I first took OChem 1, I knew pretty much right off the bat, I was like, this is not going to go well. Because I had originally signed up for one professor, and then they switched us 3 weeks in. And it was no fault of the professor, nothing, like it was nothing that could be controlled. But whenever we switched, it was like we just all got hit with a giant rock. Because the style of teaching was completely different. It was very hard to catch up. So I failed my first semester with a D. And then I took it again in the summer with Hobbs, and I was like, this is not going to go well either. And I love the way that Hobbs teaches. I love his style of teaching. But during the summer, that course was just absolutely brutal. I couldn't do it. I had to Q drop it. And then I finally took it a third time, and I had it with Arnie, and I finally made a C. But I made a C. I didn't make an A. I didn't make a B. I took it 3 times, and I made a C. So I finally got over that. And then now I'm in OChem 2, and my first test grade was a 25. So if you think, like, if you have it in the back of your head that, like, failing is, unacceptable and that it shouldn't happen, it happens. Like, don't beat yourself up about failing because it's not going to make anything better. Just, do whatever you need to do. And don't let it get to your head. Do not psych yourself out, because I psyched myself out and it's not going good. But for sure, OChem, that's been my hardest course.
Joseph?
Yeah, specifically for me, organic chemistry 2 so far is the hardest for me. Naturally, I'm not good at chemistry. I'm naturally good at like biology and that sort of stuff. But like it's like it hits you like a train. Like OChem 1 was very hard, but I got through OChem 1 my first semester. That wasn't too bad. OChem 2, it's like that. Yeah, it was OChem 2 was really hard. I'm in it right now. Yeah, my advice is just keep pushing and always ask for help. Like you don't have to do it alone. Seek out for any help. I mean, if you're good at it and you're doing well, then good for you. I mean, anyone who does good in organic chemistry, I consider a genius. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, if you want to talk about like, yeah, that's it. That's pretty much all I had to say.
As far as like just touching off that last bit, studying for OChem, one of the main things you really just have to commit, because there's not too much as far as like conceptual stuff that you have to commit to memory, other than know that positive or that opposites attract, like positive and negative, they go together. As long as you know like some really basic general chemistry concepts, and you dedicate enough time to study, and by studying I mean shutting up and doing the mechanisms. That's what I've been telling our officers in our meetings.
Yeah.
As like for prep for OChem exams, just shut up, do the mechanisms, and you'll do fine. As long as you write out the mechanisms, you develop muscle memory, and then you recognize things like, oh, this is that one functional group, and oh, here's a reactant. This is what happens. Mechanism, this is what you're always going to see, no matter what the other stuff on that chemical is. It's going to be the same reaction. So that's my shtick about that for OChem is just shut up and do the mechanisms.
Yeah, for sure, like practicing the mechanisms. I noticed that for this past test, it helped me a bit, but there was still a lot of stuff that I was not prepared for. In general, it's just a hard course, but you definitely have to put the time into it. And I will say, I know the professors seem like, and this can apply for every single class. I know professors seem absolutely terrifying and like you don't want to ask them for help, but I know like Professor Hinsey, she's one of the best, nice professors I've ever had, and she goes out of her way to help as long as you like put the effort in. And I wish that I had like the time to go to her office hours and maybe schedule more time with her because I feel like she would help me. But it's just like for me personally, it's just concept of time that I don't have. I'm just doing the best that I can. But for sure, don't be afraid to ask professors for help.
The second question: what area of medicine are you looking forward or looking to go into? For me, I don't know. Like before this summer, I was like hardcore set on pathology, and now that like I'm also in this is going to answer another one of the questions. I'm also in JANT program, and I got to meet with a lot of doctors. I mean, a lot of doctors over the summer. And I got to speak with them, and they got to like tell me what they do, the pros, the cons, and all that jazz. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. So I met with psychiatrists, I met with pediatricians, we didn't meet a podiatrist, but dermatologists. I mean, everyone likes dermatology. If you like watching popping zip videos, yeah, you like dermatology. But emergency med, OB-GYN, I never thought I would actually like OB-GYN. I love it. I'm shadowing a doctor in Bryan College Station who's an OB-GYN, and I love him so much. He's also an assistant professor at TAMUCOM. So every time I go there, I also get a mini medical school lesson, and it's amazing. Maybe that also adds to the thing, but like I love it. So I mean, I really don't know. I'm right now. I'm thinking psychiatry, OB-GYN, and path. That's really my shtick right now. Is those three? Those are like the main leaders, and then fourth is like onc.
Cool. I did not know that about you actually.
Yep.
So what I plan on going into. So I have flip-flopped so many times. So whenever I first got here, I planned on being a general practitioner to work in rural health. And then I changed my mind, and then I wanted to go into orthopedics for a while. And then I went to the body farm and I took classes there, and I was like, I prefer dead people. So now I plan on being a medical examiner, but I also really enjoy forensics, but I also enjoy health administration. So I pretty much want to do everything, which kind of sucks. Like you have, if you love doing multiple things, you have like this mental crisis of crap, what do I actually like really want to do? Because I love it all. So basically my plan right now is to become a medical examiner and then to open up a end of life care hospital and specifically work with people at the end of their life and care for them. And then also if they want to donate their body to science, then I would like to also open up a body farm and start that route too. So I kind of want to try and do everything, but we're just going to have to see how that works. Because I will say like a lot of doctors that I've talked to, they plan on going into one field and then they get to medical school and they want to do something completely different. So like keep an open mind, but don't be afraid to change your mind either.
Yeah. So with me, I haven't really flip-flopped that much. Usually, I mean, I've always liked surgery. That always sounded interesting to me. It kind of started with when I was in zoology my freshman year, and we had to dissect something. I think it was a frog. Had to dissect some other stuff and like worms and stuff. So I enjoyed doing that. I enjoyed dissecting things. I mean, that kind of sounds weird, but you know, and
With dead people, Joseph, come on.
yeah. And I remember like all of my lab partners like were like, I don't want to like touch that dead, you know, and they were being really annoying about it. So I was like, all right, just give me the tools and I'll do it. So that seemed interesting to me. Um, Anesthesiology also sounds really interesting to me. Um, I was lucky enough to shadow at Houston Methodist and shadow at the ICU and the sorry, my brain's tired. The neurosurgery department over there, and they were performing stuff like craniotomies, which looked interesting to me, and also that they have to have an anesthesiologist there, so that was cool. And also, like Tyler, I've shadowed OBGYN and a gynecologist, which also was interesting. Not recently, like a few months ago. So, yeah, that's kind of like my direction.
Witnessing births are weird. Like as a guy, just seeing like a vagina just normal and then just and like a giant baby's head come out of that. It's weird. I've never seen that happen before. I kind of missed out as far as like being in high school with anatomy and physiology. Like we never saw the birthing video just because my classmates were immature little shits.
Mm-hmm.
Pardon my language, but that's the best way. That's the most positive way to describe them. So I never got to see that. So actually seeing it in person and then just like seeing the umbilical cord get clamped and then get snipped and then having that tied, that was really cool. But it's a very different world if you've never experienced it. Okay, so next question is a very hard question that a lot of people struggle with and is also
It's very vague.
very likely going to be asked whenever you apply to medical school.
Yep, your personal statement. This is the question,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, this is a huge question, which I'm really glad I wrote it because it puts you on the spot because I know y'all weren't expecting this. Neither was I. So why medicine? For me, it's really about quality of life. So I grew up in a county where we did not have a doctor. We only had a nurse practitioner who was by themselves in a practice. So we had no, we had a professional there, but not like a doctor, and who was also well equipped with being able to just treat stuff. Like we didn't have a Johnny on the spot there as far as medicine was concerned. And so growing up without that always, not always, but like whenever I started getting older, I began to appreciate that more. And then whenever, about say halfway through middle school, my family got struck by several diseases that developed within my grandparents. So one of my grandparents developed Alzheimer's. My other grandma had Pick's disease, which is a form of dementia. And then my other grandpa, his prostate cancer relapsed, and he eventually died from that during my senior year on Valentine's Day. So never gonna have a fun Valentine's Day again. No, I will, but like it'll be a little somber. But anyway, just watching these progressive conditions go from they're fine to, oh my God, they need help all the time. It really put it in perspective as far as like quality of life within people matters. And not everyone has that. Like you go into some parts in the inner cities like Houston or New York City, we have massive health disparities there. Like you can go from like the Houston Medical Center, walk a block, and then there's a homeless guy on the side dying from syphilis. And you're like, dying from syphilis? You can't. Yes, you can. Syphilis can kill you. It can rot your brain out. It can destroy your arteries. It's like you're like, arteries? What is that? I mean, obviously, I know you know what arteries are, but I'm sure you've never heard of arteries getting destroyed by syphilis. It can happen, and that happens with homeless people, with lower socioeconomic people, not specifically syphilis, but just stupid conditions that can be easily treated, and they suffer from it, like hypertension, high blood pressure. The amount of Latin American people, citizens in the United States who suffer from that is so disproportionate compared to compared to other demographics like Asian Americans or white Americans. And you just see like these huge health disparities and you're going, oh my God, this is crazy. And so what my shtick in it is that I want to go into medicine because I want to help other people and specifically help improve other people's quality of life. Because you can live, people on ventilators live, people in comas live. That's not much of a life, but it's a life. If you have quality of life, however, that's being able to see like your family, being able to go out on the town with your friends, being able to enjoy life, being able to not just survive, but live. And so that's my main thing on it, is that I want to help, or I want to see people live. I don't want to see them survive. I want to see them live. Yeah, I'm done now. Y'all can chime in if y'all want
Yeah,
to.
Morgan, you can go. I'll go
Um,
after again.
so I didn't figure out what my personal statement was going to be until last semester when I finished a healthcare administration class. I had Dr. Amanda Scarborough as my professor, and it was like within the first couple of days, she said that the mission of healthcare is to assist people in the beginnings of life, while they're living, and also in the end of their life. And then the minute she said the end of their life, that's when everything that's happened to me in the past decade just clicked. I was like, okay, that's it. That's what I'm going in for. Because it was like literally everything that I've been through just like suddenly just like washed over me. I was like, holy crap, like this is what I'm gonna do. Because I've been through a lot of near death experiences that most people haven't. And I think that gave me a completely different perspective, because until you're in that situation, you have like no comprehension of what you actually go through. And that's really hard for people to comprehend. But whenever you are in that situation, it's like inevitable. And a lot of patients usually struggle with it themselves until you get to a point where you don't struggle with it and you just want to be comfortable. So, as a patient, I just want the best care for everyone. So, like thinking as myself as a patient, I know what I would want, and that's what I want to give my patients when they're at the end of their life. And then after that, I want to take care of them after they're dead. So whenever a person dies, I'm also a very spiritual person, and I believe that they should be put to rest in a way that they want. So whether it's being donated to science, or if they want to be buried, or any other form, whatever they want to do, I want to make it happen. And I want them to be, like, I want them to have a peace of mind when they're in that situation. So that was it for me. I've been paralyzed from the waist down. I've been blind. I have been in 5 car wrecks that 2 of them damn near should have killed me. I've been through a lot of stuff. So that just kind of like everything just clicked. So eventually, I don't want to say like for sure you're going to figure out your personal statement, like, you know, it's not going to click just like that. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But whenever you are going through your undergrad and you're trying to figure out what you want to do, always keep in the back of your mind, like, okay, why am I going into medicine? And then remind yourself of why, because you're going to have moments in your undergrad where you start second guessing yourself. Like, for example, like whenever I was failing OChem multiple times, I was this close, like this close to saying, you know what, screw this, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm going to do something else. But every time something happens, that kind of sort of like brings me back in. So just try to remember why you went into it in the first place.
Yeah, that's a good point. Before I explain, like, kind of like my spiel and stuff, don't let like one class don't let that class determine what you want to do in life. It's a tough course. Most people, or I wouldn't say most, but a lot of people struggle with it. Um, uh, I'm not a perfect student, so I'm not letting that get by me. But yeah, anyway, so why medicine? Yeah, I could go on. I could. That's a long spiel, but to
Give us a
shorten it, yeah, this is the Spark Notes. Yeah, yeah. So it kind of clicked for me, kind of young, I would say, and I stick to it, and I hope I stick to it to medicine. But my mom's a dentist, and right now, and she's also an assistant professor at UT Health. And before she worked at UT Health, she she worked at a clinic and had her own office. And sometimes during the summer when there was no school, I didn't really have much to do. I think I was probably like 9 or 10 or something like that. And so I would come to her office and help her out with some stuff. Not any like procedures or anything like that, because that'd be illegal. But um, um, but I would do stuff like greeting patients, walking them into the office, and seeing how they were doing, and redirecting them to people in the office. And I enjoyed doing that, and I enjoyed helping people out. And watching my mom work, and watching her doing procedures and stuff like that, like crowns and all that, got me interested. And it's kind of been something for me that I enjoyed watching, but also I said, you know what, this looks cool. It looks cool because watching it's like I like watching someone take care of someone that's like, to me, that's like amazing. Because like whenever you say, oh, like, take care, or like, I'm going to take care of this patient, like, what does that mean? What are the steps to do that? But yeah, and also like a lot of shadowing experiences of watching physicians doing their thing, and that's kind of helped me. That's kind of vague, but like, I'm still working on my personal statement and that stuff. But yeah, just that's kind of my spiel, but that's kind of how it started for me.
Okay. So how do I apply for MedSec? So whenever you Google, I'm going to post the link here so you guys have access to it too. But whenever you Google SHU MedSec, then it'll pull you up to this website. You probably saw me on my screen like messing with it. So this is the main website, and then I pulled up the timeline already. So whenever you apply for the MedSec, you have to kind of sort of keep in mind the deadline. So like, for example, so I'm going to try and do it this round, so I have to have all my stuff in by February 1st. And then the interviews are in March and April, and then, that kind of thing. So it rolls. And then applicant instructions. I've never been through this website in full detail. Like, I haven't sat down and like looked at it yet because I know I have a little bit of time. But this is everything that you have to have. So definitely like read through this. Don't skimp on it. I'm a little bit behind.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff on here that I should have already had done, but I don't have done yet. So yeah, the website is really, really helpful. Yeah, it just has a lot of information. So explanation of categories. So it gives you like basically a little bit of like, this is basically kind of sort of what the evaluation is. So
Yeah,
like,
they rank you out of 5, I think, or A.
yeah, or whatever. Yeah. So this is what you want. Obviously, like, I mean, part like A, yeah, you want a grade A. So these things you can kind of sort of look at and keep in the back of your head whenever you're interviewing. Okay, like, I need to keep myself together and be extremely coherent, clear, like express yourself as a completely competent individual, basically. Yeah, that's pretty much the best like explanation I have of it, is to basically just go through the website. It gives you
out for PA school. I do not think this applies to that. However, you could talk with Renee Harris or possibly Kristen Skillern about this, or even just talk to Dr. Lin, because he's the head of it. Also, Dr. Gilliard wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
Just talking with really anyone who's on the committee, Ann Gilliard, Dr. Lin, Chowdhury, Dr. Chowdhury, I think Adkins is on there as well.
And then Dr. Amanda Sparrow.
Yeah, I'm sure Bocelli and Prim are on there as
Mhm.
well, but I don't know.
Yeah, there's a lot of different professors. I think if you ask them, they'll pretty much straight up tell you, like, yeah, I'm on the MedSec committee. So
They're
Yeah.
not very ashamed. Why would they be?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Amanda Scarborough, whenever I asked her, because she said she was on the committee, and I was like, oh. So I asked her, I was like, okay, what's the one thing that you see that keeps people from basically from getting into med school? And she said that our school, for some reason, there's like a notorious problem with OChem. So I hate to bring up OChem again, but she said that's the main reason why I see people struggle is because they fail OChem, you know, just like, and it just gets to them. So keep in mind whenever you do take OChem, take it seriously, don't slack off, just like get your crap together.
Yep.
So as far as other organizations, I don't know why. I just keep on answering the first one. I don't know. I just like to talk. I'm not scared of y'all or Zoom. So as far as any other orgs, I'm involved with the Honors College. I'm almost done with all my classes and seminars and all that jazz for it. I'm also in Tri Beta, which is a Biological Honor Society. You pretty much just get in, and then we're pretty much there to help further anyone who wants to learn more about anything that's biology related, whether that be from biochemistry to ecology, medicine, you name it, we're there. And we typically like to highlight careers of professors or just people working in biological contexts. So like even lab assistants, that kind of stuff. Special programs, I already said that I was in JAMP. So if y'all have any questions about that, please like ask me, ask Renee Harris. You can ask Dr. Gilliard. Mrs. Harris isn't specifically involved with JAMP anymore, but if you ask her, she'll more than likely be very inclined to like let you know. And this is for, at this point now, for only freshmen, because the deadline for JAMP was on September 30th for this year. I don't know whether or not they extended it, but if they did, which was what happened to me whenever I applied, tonight's the night. And it ended an hour and 54 minutes ago now. So this only really applies to freshmen.
Yeah.
As far as that. So great organization, though. I will say great organization. They really put you on the spot as far as like, okay, you need to step it up and really question like whether or not, I mean, at this point you're expected to be already in there, but if you have some lingering doubts, they stamp it out of you or it just gets exacerbated. And more often than not, it's stamped out. And it's really helpful as far as that. Also, it's only available to people who are in lower socioeconomic disadvantage or bracket, I guess. So you have to, like, your estimated family contribution has to be under, I think it's $9,000, and you can see that on your IRS information. I think it's the 1098, maybe.
Yeah, the 1098-T form, I think that's what it's called.
Yeah, one. But yeah, that's pretty much me. Oh, also part of the philosophy club, which I enjoy that.
Okay. Any other orgs that I'm in? So right now I'm also a member of MedLife, and then I used to be, so like from the time I was a freshman all the way until now, I was on the Ultimate Frisbee team for 2 years. I was in the Psych Club for a little bit. I pretty much did like a little bit of everything. I was in an environmental organization. But right now, like the minute I got into Shamos, I was like, okay, this is the thing that I'm gonna stick with for like until I graduate. So I recommend finding one and just like sticking with it because that shows that you're consistent and that you can commit to something, which always looks really good. Yeah, that's pretty much, those are the only ones that I can think of that I did like stay consistent with, and I was in for more than one semester.
Yeah, so besides Shamos, I'm in a couple of others. I'm in the Honors College, and then I'm in what's it called? Alpha Lambda Delta, which was I think Tyler's in it too. It was it's an honor society for, I think, freshman students that had like a certain GPA that you got in. And then, yeah, those are the clubs I'm in, and then special programs. No, I did. Well, if the Kaplan, whatever it's called, scholarship thing counts as a program, I guess it does. Yeah, I can't remember if it's every semester or every year, they have a Kaplan scholarship. Kaplan's one of the companies that you can use to get all your MCAT prep stuff, like the books and all that. And every year they have a scholarship, I think. And if you apply for it and get it, then like you save money, which was
Yeah, like
the whole point.
amount of money.
Yeah, like I think I saved like $3,000 or something like that, or however much the prep costs and all the books and stuff. So I would recommend applying for that whenever the next
Crazy amount.
application opens up. What'd you say?
I said it's a crazy amount of money that you save if you get it.
Yeah, because if y'all didn't know, it's hella expensive, the books and all that, and all the prep.
Applying for medical school, dental school is gonna bite a hole in your pocketbook.
Yeah,
Yep.
it is.
A chunk out of your pocket. Just the application process is a lot of money.
Yeah, like
And taking the MCAT or
Even for money.
that.
But you're gonna make it all up, assuming that you get in and then get through. So
right? Like as long as you get in and get through med school, you'll pay it all off in 10 years or so.
no biggie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's expensive. Like I've already put aside a good $5,000 specifically for the application process and the MCAT prep. So like, and granted, I might be like slightly overestimating it, but I always overestimate when it comes to money, just to be safe. How do you fill your own cup of water?
What does that? Yeah, I saw that question.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Filled out that question. So my thing was again a reference to John Locke, philosopher. He's just talking about just essentially making sure that you're happy and sane. Is like, how do you deal with stress? How do you relieve stress? So, head, y'all. I think y'all have it worse than me. So,
Yeah, for me,
I hope you have healthy ways to deal with it.
yeah, like I have a boxing bag in my living room. You give me a boxing bag and some coffee, and I'm the happiest damn person alive.
Yeah, in reference to that, I feel like don't just focus like on school, focus on stuff you like doing. For example, I like biking, so usually I mean, it was mainly like when I have time, but usually I'd like to go work out or I like to go ride a bike. That helps relieve stress. So that helps, and then just I try to keep like optimistic mindset. So yeah, not everything's gonna go your way, and not everything is gonna be perfect. In this uphill steep road that you have going into med school, but just keeping an optimistic mind, because a lot of the physicians in med school, med students that I've talked to, they've said the hardest part about med school is getting in. So yeah, that's kind of my spiel.
Yeah, I've heard that same thing too. Like every single person I ask says the hardest part is getting in. And then whenever I ask them, I'm like, okay, like if you had not applied to medical school, would you have been happy? And pretty much most of the ones that I asked, even if they didn't go to med school, they said, I would rather have tried and been rejected than to not try at all and never find out. So if you want to try, like if you're not sure and you just want to try, if you have the money and you have the funds and you can do it, just try. Because you won't regret it. I've heard more people regret that they didn't apply to med school when they probably could have, instead of people who applied to med school and then just didn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
Ways I fill up my own cup, I would say enjoy little things, really. Which rule is that? Which I think it's like rule number 3 or so. I can't remember. Maybe it's rule number 7. Anyway, Zombieland reference. Um, so I tend to watch little YouTube videos I find funny. Get it like 5 minutes or so every once in a blue moon. Get on iFunny and just kind of find memes to make me, keck. Anime, watch that every once. Like if I've worked a couple hours like on something, just watch like an episode or two and then get back on work. Cooking also helps. Cooking's one of my hobbies, and it's also just a stress reliever for me. But I also cook in bulk, so I don't get to do it every day.
Yeah.
So,
Yep, meal prepping.
Yeah. I would also like tail off that. Always make sure that you do something like for you every single day. Like I know pretty much like your pre-med, like you're gonna be studying constantly all the time, but make some time for yourself. Like you won't regret making time for yourself and enjoying yourself, but you might regret, studying way too much on something and just like completely destroying yourself. Study tips, that's next.
Studying tips.
studying tips for OChem. I'm gonna let you in on a big secret. Shut up and do the mechanisms. Other than that, I mean, you've got a whole bunch of things. You have, at least for me, my main thing is study smarter, not harder. So if you're just like reading something, just passive reading, that's not going to cut it. That's not going to do anything for you other than just like, I'm reading it. I don't know why I'm not understanding it or why I'm not getting this concept. Well, quiz yourself. Self-quizzing is a great later game, mind you, later game. Study practice. Also, dual coding, so like lighting up a candle or chewing gum, that also helps form neural connections. Just really passive stuff at that point. Just adding more. Also, I already said self-testing, doing quizzes in general. Just like finding a quiz online, like especially with OChem, which a lot of people fear. I don't get the reason why people fear it. I'm sorry, Morgan and Joseph. I just do not understand it.
I just hate
I just
Well, I don't fear it. I hate it. I just don't like it.
I
But
understand. But like, find quizzes and do them online or some other resource. Ask the professor for like extra resources. Do step problems in whatever book you have. Just try to be proactive about anything you do and just try to do it in the best way you can. YouTube videos are also a decent way, but that's another passive thing. Clutch prep.
I'm trying to find the website that I used for one of my classes. I'm trying to find it. Hold on.
You're probably looking for clutch prep.
Yes, thank you. I was like, where's the damn website? So I just got like a trial of it. I haven't I can't type. Oh my gosh. So I haven't gotten much with it yet, but they do have certain classes from Sam Houston here. Like for example, I found one for OChem, specifically for Hinsey's class. So, and it gives you reviews. So if you have
What
like
the-
money for like a subscription for it, it's not much. I mean, in comparison to like how much a textbook costs, it's not much. It's basically costs as much as a textbook. But this has kind of sort of helped. It's made it a lot less stressful. It still sucks. I'm still not good at it. But at least like this gives me like another reason to use along with everything that she gives us in class. But generally speaking, whatever method you use for one class might not be the same for another. So change up your study method depending on whatever class you're in. So like the way that I studied for microbiology was completely vastly different from the way that I studied for parasitology. They're both biology classes, but I studied for them completely differently. So just like look up different methods for different types of like classes. You might be able to find something online that might work better. And don't be afraid to like try new study tips and like change your habit, because for all you know, whatever habit you're used to doing, like you got used to in high school or your freshman level classes or whatever, it might be a really bad habit for the upper level classes. Like Tyler mentioned, passive reading, terrible freaking habit.
Yep.
For the upper level classes, it's not gonna work.
Good for foundation, but not for
Yeah.
lying on.
If you are someone who has to read the textbook and likes to highlight it and whatever, go back and look at the questions in the back of the chapter first, see what you can kind of sort of guess on, and then read the chapter and then fill in the information. And then constantly quiz yourself throughout it.
Also, you said highlighting, and I think that's another important thing because I see people who literally burn through a highlighter an hour.
Yeah, don't go crazy.
That's extremely counterproductive because all you're doing is just, you might as well be grabbing a coloring book and going crazy.
Pretty much the only reason that I highlight anything for my classes is because whenever I'm reading, I have a really hard time with like physically my eyes differentiating between the lines. So I'll be reading one sentence, but then I accidentally skip 2 or 3 more and go down. So the highlighting keeps me like in track and like quite literally. But that's the only reason I would highlight. Don't use it as like a clutch, basically.
Yeah. But if you highlight everything,
yeah, I think if you highlight everything.
Selective highlighting can be good as far as like highlighting vocabulary terms and that kind of deal, or like an important underlying concept. If it's small, granted.
Yeah.
But if you go crazy highlighting, you're doing nothing for yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you're, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I forgot that you had an answer. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, just like quickly. Yeah, when it comes to classes like OChem, what I do, like reading the textbook for me and highlighting as they were talking about doesn't really help me. What really helps me is doing the practice problems and, as Tyler said, doing the mechanisms. I think that's the most important thing. If we're talking about classes like your biology classes, what really helped me was note cards.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I was able to do really well in my biology classes, and just doing them over and over and over and over again. Practice makes perfect. Like one tactic that I would use whenever I made all my note cards, let's say it was like 50 or 100 of them, I do the first 5, then go back to number 1, then then do the 5 again, and then go to 10. I know that kind of doesn't make sense. You do the first 5, then you start over, then you do 10, start over, then you do that's what I would do. It was very time consuming, but it was worth it. I did well. So
like for like an example of like my version of flashcards. So for parasitology, I don't know if any of you guys plan on taking it. It's a great class. It's really fun, but there's a lot of information. So the type of flashcards that I would use was I basically made these. So I got all the important information that I know for a fact that I had to know. And then I got a giant whiteboard and I organized it like this and I just wrote the crap down. And I just continuously did it so that I remembered everything and I could associate it with another. Because a lot of these are actually also very similar in regards to life cycle. So try and find like commonalities between them and only memorize memorize a life cycle and then memorize each one that has the same life cycle. So you're not trying to do more work than you have to. And this method can be used for like zoology too. I think if I had done this during zoology, I would have made a better grade. I made a B, but I could have gotten an A if I just like figured out how to study. Yeah. And then be consistent too. Like study a little bit every single day. Don't binge. It's not worth it.
yeah, start early. That's important.
Like I know we say it all the time, and I know people don't do it and people procrastinate, but don't procrastinate.
Okay, and so on to MCAT. Pretty much the last few things that Morgan said highlight like some of the main things that a lot of people just do not do, or that a lot of people do that allow them to be successful. So MCAT prep is not a sprint, as they say, and like they used to hear, you're going to hear this a lot in medical school if you get there, but they say this isn't a sprint, it's a marathon. And that's absolutely true. So with MCAT prep, you have to take it day by day. And whenever we say day by day, I don't mean a month ahead. I don't mean 3 months ahead. I mean 6 months, a year maybe ahead. If you really very prepared, a year, 6 months can do you good. So can a year. But like, as long as you take it day by day, study a certain amount of hours, study a good enough hours for you in particular, not just, oh, you have to study 6 hours a day. Well, some people can't do 6 hours a day. Some people can only do 2. Some people can only do 1. course, if you do one, try to sparse it out. The spacing effect, again, or I didn't actually say that again, but spacing effect, if you space stuff out, you're more likely to remember it and not get overwhelmed. Also, just knowing the general battle plan of like what the MCAT is. So they say biology. Well, I'm going to study ecology because it's part of biology, right? No. MCAT's never going to ask you anything about ecology. It's never going to ask you anything about wetland biology. It's never going to ask you anything that's not related to humans. So one of the things that I found out a while ago when it said biology, I was like, oh yeah, I'm good at biology. I love biology. Well, I like a lot of things about biology that aren't necessarily on the MCAT. So like obviously genetics, cell metabolism, development, that kind of stuff's going to be on there. But I completely forgot that they're going to have like certain body systems on there. And I don't know those things. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. I don't know a lot of stuff about the endocrine system. I mean, I know a little bit about the endocrine system, your hepatic system, all that jazz. I don't know a lot. And so that's the thing, is that know what you're actually going to be asked over in the MCAT. Getting subscriptions to stuff like Kaplan or UWorld. There's a whole, Anki, that's another one. Just getting prepared using these different services can help you a lot. And if you can't find those, you have a library. Here and then around, you also have bookstores that sell you other books. Like I have one that's like Organic Chemistry for the MCAT for Dummies, which I bought when I was in high school. Didn't understand too much of it, but I still found it. And I was like, ooh, hey, that's pretty cool. Organic chemistry, I can learn this. I learned some, much, but some. But again, just knowing what's ahead of you and taking things day by day in a very precise and scheduled manner will help you a lot in this. At least for prep, whether that's for MCAT, the PCAT,
Pretty much everything.
The DAT.
any large test that you have to go through.
Yeah. And then kind of sort of like tailing off of that, whenever it comes to test taking, so you have to keep in mind that MCAT is a complete other beast than what you're used to. You're used to these short 1 hour, 2 hour long tests. The MCAT lasts 6 to 8 hours, depending on which version you get. The version that they have now for the COVID version is 5 hours. So like no matter what, you're gonna have a very long time to test. And something that Lorenzo told me, that he said that he wished he had done more with practice tests, because you can't prepare for it unless you prepare for it. So you have to schedule a day where you sit down and you take a full length practice test as if you're actually there, and then stick with it. Don't like take a break for coffee or whatever. Like act like you're taking the test and just train yourself, because it's a very, very long, tedious process and it's exhausting.
Yeah, and you don't want to take it if you don't want to try and take it more than once. That's also something he said, because A, it's expensive, and two, again, it's like a long exam.
And you can only take it a number of times too. So you don't have like an unlimited amount of times. You can only take it 6 times throughout your entire life.
Well, yeah, I think 6 times is kind of like a lot. That's kind of a lot. That's like a lot. I was thinking like 3, but okay, 6.
Yeah.
But still,
after like your second one, med schools, they just look at you and be like, really, dude?
Yeah, like, are you sure you
Yeah.
Really, girl, get out. We don't care.
Yeah.
If that does happen to you, like, don't feel bad, because there's always other medical professions too where you can still help people. Like, I know a lot of people think that getting an MD is the only way to help people. It's not. There are so many medical careers out there that you can choose that will still get you that satisfaction. You won't get as much money, but you'll still get the satisfaction.
Oh, if you're going in it for money, you're once again going in it for the wrong reasons, and you should go into healthcare administration. They're the guys who make big bucks.
Yeah.
And minimal.
If you're going into it for the money, you're not going to be satisfied no matter what, because you can get as much money as you want, but if you don't like the job, you don't like the job. And it's not good to have a doctor that doesn't like their job.
Yeah. Exactly. And Let's see.
How to get
MCAT,
involved with research.
prep.
Really, ask. Literally, just ask.
Mhm.
One of the things I heard from the organization that I was in a Zoom call with before I got onto this one was if you're interested in researching someone, read their last paper and see what they do, see how they write stuff, see what processes you might have to get involved with, and then be like, is this something that interests me? And also the topic, because more than likely the professor cares and gives a crap about that topic. If you're really interested in I don't know, just from my experience in like plants, it makes sense to research with a botanist. Um, you're not gonna give too much of a crap if you're researching with, say, like an entomologist or a cell biologist. Like, you're in the wrong field, man. Just and the shadowing, I don't think it's necessarily about what you find interesting as long as you get experience. Because no matter what, more than likely things are going to be interesting. Even like some professions that you may not be really interested in or you think you aren't at all, they have like their little like hidden pearls within them. Like I shadowed an ophthalmologist 2 years, no, it was last summer, and it was hard, not gonna lie. The very dark office, very soft-spoken doctor. Um, just after lunch, it was really hard not to do that. But every day was still really exciting and really cool. Now, granted, it wasn't like, ER or anything where you have to be on your toes. You're casually walking around the office. Oh, you're looking in people's eye, asking them how they're doing, what's up with the kids. I mean, it's kind of like, it's a really relaxed setting, but like even in more stressful settings, like say with my OB-GYN doctor, you still have a lot of pearls, and there's still times where you can just breathe, talk about stuff. It's really just about the experience that you get with the shadowing. That's, I think, is the most important. But definitely asking people, because more often than not, they don't care whether or not you ask them. They'll be like, yes, come on. We'd love to have you, especially with research, unless it's a super popular professor, like say with Dr. Atkins. She has a waiting line. That's just how popular she is, and her research is very applicable, and she's taking on a lot of students and a lot of projects.
Yeah.
So that's really just the thing, is just research them and then be aware of what you're getting into.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, tailing off of that, yeah, just ask. The worst they can do to you is say no. Yeah, just ask. And also ask, like I would first get, like, in regards to research, I'd get.
Oh man.
Oh, I
Dang.
think maybe his laptop died or connection. I don't know. It sucks.
Oh man. He's frozen.
Rip.
R.I.P. Okay. Oh,
And
Oh, there you are.
it says my internet connection is unstable.
that explains it.
Did y'all hear anything I said?
No.
No. All right, I'll just type it in the chat box then.
I
Y'all,
say you can
I'm
try to.
repeating that again. So
Okay. So my experience with research and shadowing. So I'll start with shadowing first because I did shadowing in high school. So my high school had a specific clinical rotations program. So they assigned us to different types of rotations every 6 weeks. So I've shadowed a vet, an optometrist, shadowed a neurology nurse, trauma. I've shadowed like a bunch of different people. But even in high school, they pretty much told us whenever we were asking, like, okay, so how am I going to do this in college? They pretty much said, oh, just ask us. So like if you show like initiative at a doctor's office, you can literally just like Google a doctor's office, something that you're interested in, and show up there or call them, and then they'll more than likely say, yeah, we accept shadowing students. And then depending on like certain regulations, you might have to pass a HIPAA test, but that's pretty much like the extent that you're gonna have to do anything. But yeah, so definitely just ask. I mean, even if you have like your own general practitioner, just ask, and they'll probably say yes because they're really excited. They like people. So then research. So my case was a little bit unique. So the best advice that I can give for getting involved with research is get to know the professor. So if you know a professor you have does research and you know you want to do research, get to know them, get to know their class, ask them questions. Even if you already kind of sort of know what the answer is, go ahead, ask them questions, like show some type of initiative that you're interested consistently. Like make sure by the end of the semester that they know exactly who you are, they know what your name is, they know what you want to do, that kind of thing. Because, and then also keep in mind that you don't have to stay within the biology sector to get research done. Like my research that I did over the summer was with the health department. So like you don't have to stay in biology. It looks good if you're in biology, but it also looks good if you do something unique too. So my research was with the Sam Houston Food Pantry, and my professor actually asked me if I wanted to do it because I didn't know that she was doing research. And she asked me, she's like, hey, would you be interested in doing some research over the summer? And of course, I'm going to say yes. Like if you get asked by a professor, hey, do you want to do research? Say yes, because that doesn't happen often at all. So that's pretty much like, that's my best advice is just get to know the professor, ask questions, you know, get involved with them, get to know them, and then go from there.
Hobbies.
Hobbies.
So,
This is more fun.
Joseph, you go ahead because your laptop may die.
No, I charged it, but
Okay.
I'll go first anyways. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I like biking. I like working out, even though I can't. For the past few months, I wasn't able to do that because of COVID. I don't have my own gym, so I can't do that. So biking,
Push-ups.
running. I like watching some anime. Um, and let's see, yeah, I like camping also and hiking, but also because of COVID, can't really do a lot of that. A lot of the stuff I like to do is outdoors, so yeah. But yeah, those are just some of mine.
A big one for me is fishing.
Fishing.
Mm,
I've done fishing my whole
fishing.
life, so now it's just stuck with me. So whenever I can, whenever I get the itch, as my dad puts it, I go fishing. Um, so that's also one of the reasons why you'll see me always running around with a fishing hat. Is because one, it's comfy. Two, it provides a lot of shade. Three, if I get the itch, I'm gone. Granted, if I have stuff to do, I'll do it. Then go fish. But like I'm ready. I'm ready to go fish. Cooking is another one of mine. It's really just fun.
Cooking. Yeah, I forgot about that.
Cooking. What else is there? Reading. I read a lot, whether or not that's novels, whether or not that's light novels, novellas, manga, manhwa, you name it. I've read a lot. Um, Also, just in general learning. Like I'm one of those people who actively gets excited whenever like I go on like PubMed and see like a really cool paper. I'm like, yes, yes. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be like that every time I see a new paper on PubMed, but that's another thing. What was the other? Oh yeah, watching series and anime. I watch a lot of anime, so that's pretty much just my hobbies.
Okay, so my hobbies, obviously you saw my boxing bag. I took up boxing, and this is like a brand new hobby. So it happened 1 year ago. Um, Last year at the Bawa Health Initiative fundraiser, I got a membership, like a 3-month membership to go boxing at a gym in Montgomery, which is where my parents live. And literally day one, I was hooked. I was there close to every other day for a solid 2 hours. Completely like it just like got me in my groove. I loved it. I didn't want to leave. And I loved sparring people. Like I like I know that sounds kind of crazy, like, oh, I love beating the crap out of people, but it's fun. Like when you're with another person who is like on your level, you get into it and the time just flies. So that's my big hobby, but then I also do photography on the side. So I'm okay. People say I'm really good. I'm just okay. I think I'm okay. Like I'll do your senior pictures for free. I don't care because I don't think I'm like a professional, but people are like, no, you're really good. And I'm like, whatever. But I do that, and then if I'm not doing one of those two things, hold on, I'm just gonna show you. I have a teeny tiny arcade, and I spend my time playing that. So, and then I too watch a little bit of anime, but I'm very picky with it. Like, my thing is Attack on Titan. That's my big thing, like, for the past 3 years, probably.
Mine's Dragon Ball Z and like some other one. That's pretty much it.
Like, I love Attack on Titan.
I'm the snob. Normie anime. No, I watch some.
It's like everything, like, I don't know, I've watched other anime, but I'm just like, damn, like, it's just not as good to me. Like, I love it, but aside from that, boxing, a little arcade from the 80s. I have a leopard gecko. I hang out with him all the time. And that's pretty much it.
Oh, I also forgot Super Smash Brothers. I play a lot of that. Well, whenever I can. I haven't touched that in a while. But
I haven't played. I have an Xbox at my parents' house. I play Call of Duty a lot too, all the time.
I forgot about video games, so yeah, that's one of mine too.
We're all nerds.
I like the Mario games.
interest beyond medicine. For me, I love history. Like history and how words the evolution of linguistics is pretty interesting to me. So I was thinking just like in high school, I heard someone say, "Yo, that person's really hot," and I was like, "What does that even mean?" Like, how did we go from that person is appealing to the eye to a word that's typically correlated with temperature? And so another funky thing with that is that I was going through 1950s words that were commonly used. The word dick. We all know what that means now, or at least in context of today. But in the 1950s, whenever someone said, "You need some dick," they didn't mean like a phallus or anything like that. They meant a serious talk, basically a come to Jesus meeting, which is very weird to say. So I find the history of linguistics and the evolution of that interesting. Also history, just knowing where you come from, just knowing what the heck happened in some places, super interesting.
Interest beyond medicine. I have to think about this because probably for like the longest time, I've done nothing but think about the human body and anatomy and medicine in general. But if I hypothetically weren't going to go to med school, I have my pharmacy tech license, which is still medicine, but I would probably work as a pharmacy tech and a part-time photographer. Outside of that, like something that's not related to medicine at all, I really I don't know. I truthfully, honestly don't know. I used to be I'm really good at English and writing papers and journalism and stuff like that. I was on a newspaper team for 4 years in high school. But outside of that, I really don't have anything.
Yeah, I didn't know Tyler, you liked history because I like that too. But mine is kind of more centered around World War I and World War II history. I have a I don't have it here, but I have a book on World War II, which is interesting, and the types of machinery that people used and the weapons. It's interesting. But besides history, I'd say I like sports pretty much. That's kind of, what are you doing, Tyler? What does that mean? What? You're coughing? You sick? You got COVID?
Not soccer, I'm not interested.
Oh, okay. I like sports. I like particularly basketball and soccer. When I was younger, I used to be a fencer, which was interesting. Yeah, those are pretty much it, I would say. Yeah.
Is Maria still here? I don't know. I can't see the participants easily.
You post her interest in the chat. There is a question in the chat that I just completely I forgot the chat existed. But do you know of any physical therapist or dermatologist to shadow in Huntsville? I personally don't. But I know that there is a physical therapy office somewhere around here. So I would say probably to just Google. I know dermatology wise, I think the closest dermatologist office is in Conroe with Dr. Perry. But I will say that as a patient of his, he's very quick. He's fast. Like you won't see a patient for more than 5 minutes. So if you're going into like a really fast-paced field and you are interested in dermatology, he's probably the good place to go because he's very good at his job and he sees a ton of patients. So if you're wanting to see a bunch of patients, he's going to be your go-to guy. And he's in, like I said, he's in Conroe. He's like right outside of Willis. Like he's in between the bridge of Willis and Conroe. So he's pretty close. It's a 30-minute drive. So he would be a good choice. But other than that, I don't know specifically any. Huntsville is a really hard place to shadow in, unless you're going into general practitioner or there is a chiropractic office here. I really don't know who you would be able to shadow, just because of how small the town is. I know there's a pediatrician office here too, but I can't remember the name.
All right, so I guess that's everything in this,
And then I know, so I did get a message personally. Abigail, is it okay if I share that just kind of like collectively?
Yes, of course it is.
Okay, so Abigail asked what a pharmacy tech is. So whenever you go to like, so like for example, I worked at Kroger's for a while. So whenever you go to Kroger's and you go up to pick up a prescription, the person that you talk to more than likely is either a pharmacy tech or a pharmacy tech trainee. So pharmacy techs are kind of sort of like literally pharmacist assistants. So what we do is we do all the grunt work. So we type up the prescriptions, we fill the prescriptions, we make sure everything is good. We manage the cash register, we manage the drive-through, and we also pick up orders. We order new drugs if we have to. There's a lot that goes into it, but in a nutshell, we're pill pushers. We sit in the back, we count pills all day, we fill prescriptions all day. The hardest part about the job is honestly typing up the freaking prescriptions because doctors' handwriting is terrible. Like, I know people make jokes about doctors' handwriting all the time, but it's straight up terrible. We literally have a chart with local physician signatures on it, so we know exactly who it came from because they're that bad. So like that was honestly the worst part of the job for me. And then I will say another part of the job that's really hard is if you have a patient that is wanting their medication early, if it's a Schedule 2, that's not going to happen. If they want it a day early, it's not going to happen. They're going to have to wait. And whenever you tell people no and they want their drugs, they get real mean real quick. So like there were a couple times that we actually had to call management and get some cops out and escort people out. And usually it's for Schedule 2 narcotics. But I will say I have been yelled at by some middle-aged white lady wanting some antibiotics. So it's not just, you know, addicts that are issue, but when you have someone who wants their drugs and they want it now, they're gonna just like drag you through the mud. I was insulted by a patient, called me all kinds of names. They made another one of my coworkers cry. Like, it's wild sometimes, but I really like the job just because, like, to me it was fun. Like, I was physically tactile doing something. So they put me as basically the person who filled the prescriptions the most. I was either filling or I was what's checking post fills. And I was comparing the prescription that was dispensed with the one that we had on file to make sure everything was right and we dispensed the right medication. And there was one time that we didn't. So like it's kind of important as a pharmacy tech to make sure you're doing everything right, because whenever something like that happens, you have to contact the patient like as fast as possible. Yeah, does anyone have any other questions that they can think of? I know it's been like an hour and a half, but
we're getting double
Holy
points.
crap, it's 7:35.
yeah, you're getting 2 hours if you stay, so it doesn't really matter.
One more question, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was actually advised by Renee this not too long ago, like a week ago now, and she talked to me a lot about getting medical experience and maybe trying to get a certification as like an MA or a CNA or something. And I was wondering if you could speak to that. Like, I know you said that you were a pharmacy tech, so kind of what goes into getting that medical experience and like when we should start doing that.
So my boyfriend is actually a CNA, and I helped him study to get his CNA license and everything. So I can talk about that and mine as well. But I know, like, for him, basically what he did is he signed up for a really short course. I think it was either 6 to 9 months. It was really short, and I don't want to say it was easy, but it was stuff that, like, as someone who was like a pre-nursing student, he kind of sort of already had an idea of what to do. So he took the class, got his hours, and then you take a test. And then after you get your certification, then you can work. So it's a little bit of like a drawn out process, but it's worth it. I know for if you're pre-nursing, you get extra points for it. So whenever you go to apply to nursing school, they grade you based on points. So the more points you have, then the more likely you are to get accepted. So it's a really good thing to have if you want to do that. And then as far as pharmacy tech goes, each license, so like each professional license is a little bit different. So it took him longer to become a CNA than it did for me to become a pharmacy tech, because I got lucky and my high school had a program where all we did was we took a class, we took the test, and then we got our certification. But to be a pharmacy tech without taking a class, all you have to do is apply to be a pharmacy tech trainee. And then you have 2 years to study and take the test. So at the same time, you get to work and get the experience before you take your test. So that kind of sort of makes it easier because you're getting paid and you're also getting the experience and you have more time to take the test. And then as far as when, that's completely up to you and what your schedule's like. Because I know whenever I started working, I had a little bit more time. I was a sophomore. I wasn't doing anything really hard. But then closer to the end of the semester, I was like, ooh, this is a little bit rough. Because you also have to take into consideration when you get a part-time job, usually they require you to work 15 hours. And that's like a pretty decent chunk of time. So it's just kind of sort of like a personal preference. Like if you want to take less hours and work, you can do that. That might be better for you. I don't know. That's completely like up to you and your discretion.
And then again, going off like just the different medical jobs there are, you don't have to be a CNA, you don't have to be a farm tech, you can be other stuff. I mean, you can be a paramedic. Paramedics get a lot of experience. They also have whack hours and they deal with a lot of stuff. So you can get a lot of experience there.
Yeah.
Phlebotomists, if you really want, phlebotomy certification can actually be really expedient. I mean, like within a few months.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Like maybe 3. Like that's something you can learn over the summer.
Yeah.
Granted, it all depends on like which where you get certified. Like with Blinn College, I know that I think they have like a 2-month program. But yeah, Blinn College, great place to get phlebotomy certified.
Yeah.
I mean, just again, there's a lot of different. Hold on. There's a lot of different medical jobs that you can apply to and get experience in that don't necessarily have to be drawn out and more complicated. I say more complicated, like farm techs or CNAs.
Yeah, so like with pharmacy tech, it's a lot of like, there's a lot of legal stuff that goes into it. So you kind of like, that's why it takes a little bit longer, because we have a lot of laws that we have to follow and we have to meet specific certifications and requirements. But with like medical scribes or phlebotomy or pretty much anything that Tyler mentioned, that's a lot shorter. You could very easily do it over the summer. I know someone who became a paramedic over the summer and she absolutely loves it. And she did it while she was going to nursing school.
Yep.
All right, I'm sorry, y'all. I have to leave, but if you have any questions, you can let me know in the group me or email me. So.
All right. Well,
Sounds good.
I suppose this is
Bye-bye.
a good place to stop unless anyone has any last-minute questions, and we can just cut this meeting off. All in, all done. So, okay.
Okay.
So, I guess that'll be it. All right. So everyone who's still here gets double hours. Other than that, have a good night.
All right. Thank you guys for coming. I know this was kind of sort of a different, we got canceled by our speaker, but thank you guys for those of you that showed up and participated.
All right. Well, I will see y'all later. All right. Night, Morgan.
Night.
night, the rest of y'all.